very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. And there is very grave danger. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. But I am asking your help of informing and alerting the American people.
I'm going to show you, except the second two pieces, could not be bought in a store until a few years ago. You stop and think about it when you started seeing this stuff. To buy these symbols here, you had to go to an occult store. Of course, that was easy for San Francisco. They've always been a little weird. But you go to the occult stores, but you had to prove that you were an initiated witch of a coven before they would sell this stuff to you, and it was made by their coven silversmith. The first one's called a pentacle. If you put a circle around it, it's called the pentagram. It's a symbol of witchcraft. At one point up, it's a symbol of witchcraft. 2 points up, like it's showing kind of there, it's the symbol of Satanist church, the symbol of the horn god. You might also notice it's also the symbol of the Eastern Star. We were in San Francisco last night, and in the building that the Illuminati houses the Rothschild's private enforcer, Isaac Bonowitz. He's like a living computer. He's also one of the members of the council that I led. In the store down below, which sells many pieces of occult jewelry, they sell ladies' compacts with Eastern stars embedded in them, with all the little runes and so on. This is called the hexagram, not the Star of David. The Star of David is a name change on it. David was dead and buried when that star was created by a son that had backslid and went into demonic worship. Solomon would seal his documents of war and his occult documents with that thing. They call it the Crest of Solomon or the hexagram. And that's where the word to hex or to cast an evil spell came from. Witches, when they conjure demons, they call the demons up to talk to them in person. This star must be drawn on the floor for the demon to arrive in, or it won't appear. Now that gives you an idea. It's the most evil sign in the occult world. This symbol in various forms means that you're an initiated witch of witchcraft. And if you'll watch television, well, I'm sure you do. If you watch television, you'll notice that many of the television stars are now wearing this symbol openly. Why not? Christians don't know what it means. You also notice it was a sign of the Shriners, too. This one up above is being sold. Oh, well, this one. Oh, well. Somehow, there we go. Look at that. I don't think it's going to work. There we go. There, we got it worked out. The first one's called the Ankh. They call it the Cross of Life now. It's on it in Christian bookstores and so on. The Cross of Life, or the Ankh, comes from Egypt. Means that you're a worshiper of Ra, the sun god. That's the Egyptian name for Lucifer. So it means that you worship Lucifer. It means that you despise virginity, that you're against virginity, that you practice orgies, and that you believe in reincarnation. That means that you don't believe in heaven or hell, that when you die you're going to come back again, and the Word of God is a lie because it says you'll live once and then judgment. But they say no. The next is the broken cross, the peace sign. It didn't originate in Frisco or London during the peace movement. It's been around a long time. We've heard a lot of cracks about it, you know, the footprint of American chicken and all this type of thing. This is what it is. When a person wants to become a member of witchcraft, and they come from a Christian background, I didn't have to take this initiation because I was born into witchcraft. They're given a cross made out of ceramic clay, baked clay, and it's turned upside down, and they take the crossbars and they break it, forcing the crossbars down and break the crossbars off. And they throw the pieces to the floor and shatter it. And the priest or priestess, whoever's doing the initiation, then announces, you are free from the bondage of the Christian church. And because of this act, you shall have peace evermore. Thus, the peace sign. It's called the broken cross. This one you're not going to find until about a year from now. Anybody ever seen this symbol before? Everybody going, 666. You're right. 666. It's 3 overlapping 6s. Okay, here's where you can find it. You can find it on the world currency printed out of Brussels. We bought $10 billion of it, but our president decided that it's better to go with a credit card than the currency now, so we're not going to use it. You'll find it in clothing and shoes made in the common market countries, in the labels of the clothing. More recent, about a year ago, it was on national television when the President of the United States, you know, the peanut eater from Georgia, well, I mean, you know, that's about the best I can do for him. I could say more. Said he had personally designed a national security card that would be the answer to the problems in the United States. And that every citizen, law-abiding citizen, would have one of these cards to prove they were a law-abiding citizen. You know, whatever. Then, he got done making his speech, he left, his press secretary come up and says to the newsman, here's a picture. Now, for some reason, with all the flashbulbs popping and stuff, that card's picture never got printed in the paper. I don't know why. Maybe they decided it was a bad move. But in the center of the card was a pearl white glossy card, computer plastic type. In the center, in kind of a gray with words written over it, you know, but in the background, you know, like a watermark, was this emblem. Welcome to the last generation. They're putting their forces together. Now, if you've been going to the grocery stores and the department stores, you've been noticing the new computer cash registers. You know, one shopping step type cash registers, and you put your card in it and ring up the purchase, and it does all the business for you right then and there. Well, all the stores are supposed to switch over to them, and the little poorer stores are supposed to get the little phone unit that hooks into your phone, and you zip the card through. This is all supposed to happen in the next year, right on time schedule, just like it should be. Then, things will be a little different around here, because by then they plan on destroying the money that you have. And then you'll have to use the card, because the money will be worthless. Now, if you think, if you've been noticing all the television commercials, security is the word that everybody's been using on television commercials. Prepare for the future, pack up for security this and security that. And then they're going to turn around and they're going to wipe your security off the face of the man. I'm going to destroy that microphone before it's over. Now, if I'm stepping on your little safe world, I'm sorry. I'm trying to tell you something in advance. And I'm going to give you a reading list so you don't think I'm the only nut in the world. The first book is None Dare Call Conspiracy. I'm going to give these quick and then I'll take a few questions. We've got a few minutes and that's it. The next is the Rockefeller Files. And the last one is Jimmy Carter, Jimmy Carter. Now, those can be found in most bookstores. They're by Gary Allen. But I recommend one that you find in the Christian bookstore. It's called The Day the Dollar Dies. You might decide to invest the financial money that you're saving in your savings account that'll be worthless before this year is out in the work of God. I'm serious, it'll be worthless before this year is out. This time next year, the time schedule they have, I'll give you a few events. I'm not prophesying, I'm giving you physical knowledge. You may think I'm crazy. They thought I was crazy back in 1972 when I said we were going to have a fuel shortage. They thought I was crazy back in 1973 when I said watch for the coal mines to close. So you may think I'm crazy, but next year when it's all happening, at least I told you in advance. You got a little bit of warning. There'll be 10 million people out of work this time next year. Now that's when our welfare system, unemployment system, and social security system goes collapse because it won't be able to handle that many people out of work. And you may want to go home and pray and ask yourself what this country's going to be like with 10 million people not eating and not having any money. And then you may want to pray that a lot of souls get won and Jesus comes quickly. I know I'm going to. Okay, I'll take some questions and answers.
I'm not going to do what I usually do and really pick on the Masons tonight. I'm just simply going to read from two books of theirs, and I'm going to let the Masons draw their own conclusion. That which we must say to the crowd is, we worship a God, but it is a God that one adores without superstition. To you, sovereign, grand, inspectors general, we say this, that you may repeat it to the brethren of the 32nd, 31st, and 30th degree. The Masonic religion should be, by all of us initiates, of the high degree, maintained in the purity of the Luciferian doctrine. If Lucifer were not God, would Abaddon, now before I go on, I want to say Abaddon is found in Revelations for you students of Revelation as the keeper of the pit, the demon over all the rest of the demons. Would Abaddon, the God of the Christians, whose deeds prove his cruelty, profanity, and hatred of men, barbarism, and repulsion for science, would Abaddon and his priests culminate him? Yes, Lucifer is God. Thus the doctrine of Satanism is a heresy, and the true and pure philosophical religion is the belief in Lucifer, the equal of Abaddon, Jesus Christ. But Lucifer, God of light and God of good, is struggling for humanity against Abaddon, the God of darkness and evil. They're calling Jesus Abaddon. They're calling Lucifer everything we believe of Jesus, and Jesus everything we believe of the devil. And that's in one of their own books. Now, when the Mason learns that the key to the warrior on the block is the proper application of the dynamo of living power, he has learned the mystery of his craft. The seething energies of Lucifer are in his hands, and before he may step onward and upward, he must prove his ability to properly apply energy. He must follow in the footsteps of his forefather, Tubal-Cain, who with the mighty strength of the war god hammered his sword into a plowshed. Now, when I was saved, I complained. Well, no, what am I saying when I was saved? I didn't find this out until I was saved. When I was in the occult, I complained at our council meetings because the 33rd Council had so much power, and I felt it was unjust because I had proven myself so greatly to Lucifer, witches are very proud people. And I complained that they didn't do the same thing. Now, we really didn't know what the Council of 33 did, or what their rights were, because we were occult and they were Masons. When I got saved and saw this, I found out they did do the same thing. The warrior on the block right, remember I said they must prove their ability to properly apply this energy? The warrior on the block right is human sacrifice. They did do the same right. The very leaders that lead the Masonic belief, remember they said of the high initiates, they laugh at the Blue Lodge and those below them because of what they really know and who they really worship. Go with me to the back of that purple sheet to political organizations. Okay? The Trilateral Council and the Council of Foreign Affairs. There's two separate blocks there, and it shouldn't really be. You can leave it this way. The Trilateral Council is the brain center of the Council of Foreign Relations. Every man in the Council of Foreign Relations and every man in the Trilateral Council believes that Lucifer is God Supreme, has declared it, has taken a vow of secrecy, and has dedicated his life to seeing that Adam gains the world. Our president is a member of the Trilateral Council, and that is a well-known fact for people who dig into politics. So don't anybody tell me how great a Christian he is. Now, let's go over to the all sheet, to the Sphinx, and we'll go on with something else. And the idea of taking over is to bankrupt the whole world where nothing is of any value and the currency does not exist anywhere, and then come back and solve all the problems. I heard the Gaithers, which are my favorite group, recently on a record in a live concert. The guy was talking about the energy crisis. He says, it's funny, it doesn't matter if it's the Republicans or Democrats. They get elected, they cause us problems, and then solve them so it looks like they're doing something.
midnight now. They're frickin'... There's some sort of vehicle out there and madness going on. I don't know what. Emergency vehicle. Likely not getting in. Whatever. It's gotten considerably crazier in the past 2.5 hours. Shopping carts being used as a barricade. Practical. Best Buy bouncers. Yeah, the line is actually visible. Son of a bitch. And it's only 12:34 a.m. Before it was wrapping around the building. That's a little more comforting, I guess.
It worked out. I'm happy.
People love their night out. Copper. Okay, that's enough of this crap.
I don't know if she saw this, but they have it right here for 35.
Oh, sorry.
Yo, you know how much is that TV?
It's a long way toward the creation of a legitimate global democracy. Because the more people unite in one place, the more powerful their voice becomes.
With the internet, we've all been made aware. Whether we want to face it or not, we all know what's going on.
Secret organizations of the world power elite are no longer secret.
Their goal is nothing less than world government.
And they are planning genocide, and they must be stopped.
Literally stealing $100 million a day. Goldman Sachs is stealing every day on the floor of the exchange. They should be in The Hague. They should be taken up on financial terrorism charges. They're causing as much loss of life.
Mind-blowing piece of information about the Titanic. They got rid of, in one fell swoop, about 600 industrialists who were opposed to the taking over the Fed.
A Greek departure from the currency would inflict collateral damage, says PIMCO. At worst, it could spur sovereign defaults in Europe, as well as bank runs, credit crunches, and recessions that may spark more euro exits.
Look, Greek exit at worst means more money printing for the banks, and they've already priced that into their stocks and their bonuses. What they're really afraid of is that a country finds its inner gonads and decides to become politically independent. That's what they're fearful of. A country standing up for itself. They want Iceland to be just contained. They don't want Greece to stand up for itself. They don't want Ireland to stand up for itself, because then they would tell the bankers to stuff it. That's the real problem. They threaten this financial terrorism, which is false. It's false. These are false attacks. It was a false attack in 2008. It was a concocted, overcooked attack in 9/11. It's a false attack.
In Iceland, 4 former bank chiefs have been jailed for fraud. The sentences go as far as 5 years behind bars. They're accused of concealing that a Qatari investor bought a stake in their firm, using cash lent from the bank itself, illegally. The deal took place just ahead of the collapse of the bank due to huge debts.
This shit's got to go. Hey, guess what country is getting itself out of a financial hole by some rather draconian measures?
Well, Greece?
No, not even close.
Yeah.
Iceland.
Iceland?
Iceland.
Who knew?
They are putting people in jail. They are putting, like, prime ministers being indicted. They're going after bankers. The people said, yeah, I said, those banks were ripping us off. We don't like what they did. They brought our country to ruin. And now Iceland suddenly is turning around. Their GDP is growing, and they look like a big success story.
The former chief executive and chairman of Anglo-Irish Bank, Sean Fitzpatrick, has appeared in court in Dublin.
Well, John, Sean Fitzpatrick arrived at the courts complex here behind us just after 9 o'clock this morning. He was put into a Garda van at the Bridewell Garda station and driven here. He had been arrested at 5:37 a.m. at Dublin Airport. He had flown back in from the United States in the early hours of the morning, and he met officers from the Garda Bureau of Fraud Investigation and officers working for the Director of Corporate Enforcement by arrangement. There was an appointment made and they met at Dublin Airport.
A 31-year-old man was arrested in London earlier today. A guy you could say had a bit of a gambling problem. Just how much money did he lose while working as a trader at the investment bank UBS? Just $2 billion.
Treasury Secretary Timothy Geithner potentially facing criminal charges.
Geithner was the president of the New York Federal Reserve Bank in the fall of 2008 when the Federal Reserve and the Treasury and the White House and the Congress decided to bail out AIG.
Right.
In the process of that bailing out of AIG, many documents were exchanged. If you went to the bank to borrow money, you'd have to fill out documents. One of the documents AIG filled out said, we owe X dollars to Goldman Sachs and we plan on paying them 100 cents on the dollar. According to Bloomberg, emails that came out yesterday say that lawyers for the Federal Reserve Bank said, we were told to strike this from the form so that AIG would not reveal to the Treasury Department or to the public that this money was going to be paid to Goldman Sachs because that's a politically toxic issue. Goldman Sachs making a fortune, making 100 cents on the dollar with federal funds. Now, if you go to buy a $25 savings bond from the federal government and you falsify the document to acquire that bond, you can go to jail.
That's right.
If you borrow $185 billion from the government, like AIG did, and you falsify a document, even if the government told you to do so, the people involved can go to jail.
Debate in India over thousands of crores of black money being stashed away in secret Swiss bank accounts. A former Swiss banker has handed over details of offshore accounts of 2,000 high net worth individuals to the whistleblowing website WikiLeaks. Rudolf Elmer, a former employee of a Swiss bank, handed over 2 disks of information to WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange in London. He says they have information on tax evasion by celebrities, business leaders, and even politicians from the US, Britain, and Asia, but it's not yet clear if there are Indians on the list. Elmer says that after years of watching the money laundering trade, he wanted to do something about it. He will appear before a Zurich court on Wednesday, charged with violating strict Swiss banking secrecy laws. WikiLeaks now plans to put up the information on the website in a matter of weeks.
Pointed out that the arrests are not an indication of a systemic failure. Yesterday, at least 8 top officials of state-run banks and financial institutions have been arrested by the CBI on Wednesday. The allegations are that they accepted bribes in exchange for disbursing loans to corporate housing and realty companies, despite suspect credit records, and at other times for bailing out realty IPOs.
Royal Bank of Scotland is reportedly set to be fined €186 million for the same interbank interest rate rigging scandal that's hammered Barclays. The British regulator, the Financial Services Authority, says 4 banks, Barclays, RBS, HSBC and Lloyds, will have to pay compensation to customers because they missold products to protect small businesses against a rise in interest rates. There's anger in Ireland over revelations that executives at Anglo-Irish Bank lied to the Dublin government about how much money it would need in a bailout 5 years ago. The Irish Independent newspaper has got hold of tape recordings of top bosses there who laugh about the fact that the bank has told the government it only needs €7 billion. They also laugh about abusing the state bank guarantee, which eventually cost taxpayers €30 billion. The report seems to show the government was lured into helping the bank through its disastrous guaranteeing of bank deposits.
Into the synchronized global pullback or recession, and in some cases a depression, then these items are coming to the surface. For example, the 20 to 30 trillion of wealth that's held offshore. And most of that wealth, of course, goes through Britain, goes through the UK, because Britain has the least regulated financial markets in the world. That's why MF Global was in Britain. Lehman Brothers went through Britain. Bernie Madoff went through Britain. The latest Peregrine scandal went through Britain. JP Morgan's $2 to $9 billion loss on their balance sheet happened in London. So London is really the headquarters for global banking fraud. And even though the economy is contracting in
in Britain, I noticed that the banking sector is still making huge profits. The Barclays chief operating officer that was caught committing fraud just got a golden parachute of £8 million. So as I've said, you know, until you get rid of the financial terrorists, then you're going to continue to get, you're going to have these weapons of mass financial destruction blow up in your face.
He's one of the most influential men in the world, but no amount of money can buy his freedom. 62-year-old IMF head Dominique Strauss-Kahn spent the night in a jail cell in an East Harlem police station. It was a far cry from his $3,000 a night luxury hotel suite at the Sofitel in Times Square. That's where cops say he sexually assaulted a 32-year-old maid, chasing her around the suite naked, trying to rip off her underwear, then forcing her to perform a sex act.
It's almost like they're not human, isn't it? You look at them and you think, these people don't live in the same world as us. Do you remember that before the crisis happened, what they were doing was decimating the high street banks, laying off all their staff, putting us all on computers when they clearly hadn't developed the technology for those computers. They told us that they were doing that to make things better for us. They didn't. They made things worse for us. And it was simply in order to collect up an enormous amount of money that they could invest in the casino of international banking. And they blew it because they didn't understand it. And then they come back to us and say, oh, can you bail us out now for hundreds of millions of pounds? We give them the flipping money and they don't lend it to us even though they've promised to do so. They have the gall to increase their wages by 12%, to give themselves bonuses and say we've got to do this because if we don't, we'll leave the country. And all the time, actually, in the background, they're committing acts which in any other business I think would be seen as criminal. I have no respect for British bankers and the British banking system at all. They've dragged us into that situation. It's about time they started getting us out of it.
Another posh New York City hotel, another hotel maid saying she was sexually assaulted by another foreign banker.
$96 billion lawsuit just filed against 17 major banks. There's 236 resignations from the world banks. The arrest of the leaders of the criminal cabal. The dark cabal rats are panicking and turning on each other. They are threatening to kill each other.
And just attack that market. You know, Greece was put out of business by financial terrorists. Same thing with Ireland, same thing with Italy, same thing with Spain. That's what we're dealing with here. Weapons of mass financial destruction in the hands of sociopaths like Lloyd Blankfein at Goldman Sachs, like Jamie Dimon at JP Morgan. These are the real terrorists.
We're cutting off their money and we're going to put them in jail. They have to surrender. Once these murderers are out of power, you will find so many wonderful things in your life. I guarantee you this.
I think you know why this title could be conferred on my candidacy. Just before you met, a weekly news magazine with wide circulation featured a section entitled Kennedy's Liberal Promises and described me, and I quote, as the farthest out liberal Democrat around, unquote. While I am not certain of the beatnik definition of farthest out, I am certain that this was not intended as a compliment. And last week, as further proof of my credentials, a noted American clergyman was quoted as saying that our society may survive in the event of my election, but it certainly won't be what it was. I would like to think he was complimenting me, but I'm not sure he was. But a more serious challenge to my credentials, this time as a Democrat, was issued in Dallas, Texas. In his address to a large gathering of Texas Republicans, and there are no pure breed any place in the United States, Mr. Nixon complained that what he called the party of Schlesinger, Galbraith, and Bowles was not the party of Jefferson, Jackson, and Wilson. I do not agree. But I have no intention of issuing a similar challenge to my opponent's credentials. For I know full well that the party of Nixon, Dirksen, and Goldwater is the party of Hoover, Harding, Coolidge, McKinley, and the rest. final proof is the old political adage that you can tell a friend by the enemy that he makes. And by this standard, you and I are the closest of friends. For Mr. Nixon and Mr. Dirksen and Mr. Mott and Mr. Goldwater don't like my liberal policies, I'm glad to say, any more than they do yours. They are fighting a rearguard action against the 20th century, and they fear that our time is coming and theirs is going. I do not mean to say that the fight is wholly between the Democratic and the Republican parties. Those of you who are here tonight are proof of the fact that some of the best friends that the Democrats have are not in the Democratic Party. I think in November that some of them may be in the Republican Party. But I hold out no hope at all for the vast and impressive number of Republicans who suddenly, just before election time, those who are running for office, suddenly begin to sound like true religion. 8 years ago on this occasion, Adlai Stevenson called this quadrennial outburst of affection, that pause in the Republican occupation, known as the liberal hour. And he added it should never be confused, and he was right, with any period when Congress is in session. What do our opponents mean when they apply to us the label liberal? If by liberal they mean, as they want people to believe, someone who is soft in his policies abroad, who is against local government, and who is unconcerned with the taxpayer's dollar, then the record of this party and its members demonstrate that we are not that kind of liberal. But if by a liberal they mean someone who looks ahead and not behind, someone who welcomes new ideas without rigid reactions, someone who cares about the welfare of the people, their health, their housing, their schools, their jobs, their civil rights and their civil liberties, someone who believes that we can break through the stalemate and suspicions that grip us in our policies abroad, if that is what they mean by a liberal, then I'm proud to say that I'm a liberal. But first, I would like to say what I understand the word liberal to mean, and explain in the process why I consider myself to be a liberal, and what it means in the presidential election of 1960. In short, having set forth my views, I hope for all time 2 nights ago in Houston, on the proper relationship between church and state, I want to take this opportunity to set forth my views on the proper relationship between the state and the citizen. This is my political credo. I believe in human dignity as the source of national purpose, in human liberty as the source of national action, and the human heart as the source of national compassion, and in the human mind as the source of our invention and our ideas. It is, I believe, this faith in our fellow citizens, as individuals and as people, that lies at the heart of the liberal faith. For liberalism is not so much a party creed or a set of fixed platform promises, as it is an attitude of mind and heart, a faith in man's ability, through the experiences of his reason and judgment, to increase for himself and his fellow men the amount of justice and freedom and brotherhood which all human life deserves. I believe also in the United States of America, in the promise that it contains and has contained throughout our history, of producing a society so abundant and creative, and so free and responsible, that it can not only fulfill the aspirations of its citizens, but serve equally well as a beacon for all mankind. I do not believe in a superstate. I see no magic to tax dollars, which are sent to Washington and then returned. I abhor the waste and incompetence of large-scale federal bureaucracies in this administration, as well as in others, I do not favor state compulsion when voluntary individual effort can do the job and do it well. But I believe in a government which acts, which exercises its full powers and its full responsibilities. Government is an art and a precious obligation. And when it has a job to do, I believe it should do it. And this requires not only great ends, but that we propose concrete means of achieving them. Our responsibility is not discharged by an announcement of virtuous ends. Our responsibility is to achieve these objectives with social invention, with political skill, and executive vigor. I believe for these reasons that liberalism is our best and our only hope in the world today. For the liberal society is a free society, and it is at the same time, and for that reason, a strong society. Its strength is drawn from the will of free people committed to great ends and peacefully striving to meet them. Only liberalism, in short, can repair our national power, restore our national purpose, and liberate our national energies. And the only basic issue in the 1960 presidential campaign is whether our government will fall in a conservative rut and die there, or whether we will move ahead in the liberal spirit of daring, of breaking new ground, of doing in our generation what Woodrow Wilson and Franklin Roosevelt and Harry Truman and Adlai Stevenson did in their time of influence and responsibility. Our liberalism has its roots in our diverse origins. Most of us are descended from that segment of the American population which was once called an immigrant minority. Today, along with our children and grandchildren, we do not feel minor. We feel proud of our origins, and we are not second to any group in our sense of national purpose. For many years, New York represented the new frontier to all those who came from the ends of the earth to find new opportunity and new freedom. Generations of men and women who fled from the despotism of the czars, the horrors of the Nazis, the tyranny of hunger, who came here to the new frontier in the state of New York. These men and women, a living cross-section of American history, indeed a cross-section of the entire world's history of pain and hope, made of this city not only a new world of opportunity, but a new world of the spirit as well. Tonight we salute Governor and Senator Herbert Lehman as a symbol of that spirit. And as a reminder that the fight for full constitutional rights for all Americans is a fight that must be carried on in 1961. Many of these same immigrant families produced the pioneers and builders of the American labor movement. They are the men who sweated in our shops, who struggled to create a union, who were driven by longing for education for their children and for their children's development. They went to night schools. They built their own future, their union's future and their country's future, brick by brick, block by block, neighborhood by neighborhood. And now in their children's time, suburb by suburb. Tonight we salute George Meany as a symbol of that struggle and as a reminder that the fight to eliminate poverty and human exploitation is a fight that goes on in our own day. But in 1960, the cause of liberalism cannot content itself with carrying on the fight for human justice and economic liberalism here at home. For here and around the world, the fear of war hangs over us every morning and every night. It lies expressed or silent in the minds of every American. We cannot banish it by repeating that we are economically first or that we are militarily first, for saying so doesn't make it so. More will be needed than goodwill missions or talking back to Soviet politicians or increasing the tempo of the arms race. More will be needed than good intentions, for we know where that paving leads. In Winston Churchill's words, we cannot escape our dangers by recoiling from them. We dare not pretend such dangers do not exist. And tonight we salute Adlai Stevenson as an eloquent spokesman for the effort to achieve an intelligent foreign policy. Our opponents would like the people to believe that in a time of danger, it would be hazardous to change the administration that has brought us to this time of danger. I think it would be hazardous not to change. I think it would be hazardous to continue 4 more years of stagnation and indifference at home and abroad, of starving the underpinnings of our national power, including not only our defense, but our image abroad as a friend. This is an important election. This is an important election in many ways, as important as any in this century. And I think that the Democratic Party and the Liberal Party here in New York, and those who believe in progress all over the United States, should be associated with us in this great effort. The reason that Woodrow Wilson and Franklin Roosevelt and Harry Truman and Adlai Stevenson had influence abroad, and the United States in their time had it, was because they moved this country here at home. Because they stood for something here in the United States, of expanding the benefits of our society to our own people. And the people around the world look to us as a symbol of hope. I think it is our task to recreate that same atmosphere in our own time. Our national elections have often proved to be the turning point in the course of our country. I am proposing that 1960 be another turning point in the history of the great republic. Some pundits are saying that it's 1928 all over again.